Number 2 killer on the list, colic. So what's colic? Well, colic really is a bellyache. So it's this umbrella term for a tummy ache in horses. So what causes that tummy ache? Well, most people would know that really it's a change in feed. They'll end up, so if we suddenly change our horse's feed, even if we move them to a new paddock, so if I suddenly bring my horses or take this horse over here to another area, there is a chance of them having colic. And I didn't understand this until I did equine nutrition. But the reason for this is that in the cecum, the horse has the cecum, there's a huge microbiome in there, trillions of little bacteria, and they get very used to the feed that the horse is being fed or the pasture that they're on. Now in the wild, like if you look at our Brumbies or the Mustangs over in the US, they traipse 50 kilometres a day. They can do huge distances and they're browsing and grazing. So they don't just eat grass out there on the plains. They eat sticks, they eat all sorts of things. So their microbiome, a bit like good gut health for us, relies on having a broad range. Now, what do we do with horses here? Well, we keep them in small paddocks for a start. We hard feed them for a second, which is not their natural feed stuff. They might get a little bit of pick or they might have not much, depending on how we keep them. They are reliant on hay and they're reliant on us for all of their diet. But what happens is that their microbiome gets very, very narrow. So your horse has around 30 metres of gut. There's a lot of places for things to go wrong. That cecum and all those bacteria, if you suddenly change feeds, and when I mean suddenly, I mean like over a week even is quite sudden. What happens is that the microbiome that like the old feed, they just go, and die. I don't like that feed. And they just shrivel up and die. And so it takes 3 weeks for new bacteria in the microbiome to go. So what that can do is cause release of toxins and things into the horse's gut and cause them to have a bellyache. Fortunately, that type of bellyache is 90% curable. Okay, so mostly they're going to survive that kind of bellyache. The other kinds of bellyaches can be sand colic, colic from a release, all of a sudden a whole lot of encysted worms release and cause a huge toxic overload in the gut, because they're the little red worms or strongyles. They're small strongyles, they sit in the horse's gut and they sit there for ages, and then you worm the horse, kill off all the adults, and all the ones that are sitting in the wall hatch out and go, ta-da, here we are. But all the adult dead ones, they cause a lot of poisoning in the gut. So again, your horse gets colic. Now those ones can be more serious, but again, 85% of colics will be treated by medical management. That's why you don't muck around. You get your vet out, he comes out and he does some things. What else causes colic? Stress. So you might have a horse, and in fact this exact thing happened to me. I have a horse in rehab at the moment. She's had pedal bone penetration. She's been in chronic pain for the last few months. Up and down, so she's managed, she's coped, she's done really well, she's very tough. But then we had a cold snap as well and she developed colic, just the stress of it. And then, of course, we got a regression in the laminitis. So everything's connected in your horse, and understanding that's really quite important. Other things that cause colic is, a postpartum mare can get colic, again, the stresses, or gut ulcers, a major cause of colic. So how will I know my horse has got colic? Well, you'll go back to your vital signs and you'll say your horse might be doing some odd things. So he might be sort of sitting, but they'll stretch out like this, they're trying to stretch their belly. The early signs might be just a little bit of sweat behind the ears. You might notice it in the flanks. Their heart rate will be up a bit. They'll be breathing up a bit. They might be lying down but not rolling. So traditionally what we think is that thrashing on the ground rolling. Not necessarily. They might be pawing. Sometimes they'll do the lip up in the air and do air gulping as well. These are all strategies for them to help sort of manage the pain of that and their early signs. So if you can catch it then, good chance that you're going to be able to manage it quite well. You get your vet out, vet's going to come out, he's going to do an overall assessment. He will probably do a rectal exam. They are checking if there's manure, they're checking the consistency of the manure. Is it overly hard? Is it too soft? Is there something around that? But they're also, when they put their hand in there, they can feel, sometimes they can feel a tumour that's caused, or sometimes they can feel that the gas is built up and that's very mobile. What are the myths? All right, what do you think are colic, oh, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to trot my horse around in a circle, or maybe make him canter, or I'll put him on the float. Don't do that. Yes, it might make them poop, but it's not just about pooping. So just get your vet out, they will check him over, they'll pass a tube down his esophagus. One of the things that they're looking for is how much, how much discharge is coming out. So how much saliva is built up. Because if the horse produces like 16 litres or something ridiculous of saliva a day, so how much of that is coming out of the tube indicates where the obstruction might be. So if there's lots and lots of saliva coming out of that tube, that can mean that the obstruction is higher up in the bowel. If there's not much, it's usually further down, back in the bowel, and often will cope just with the medical management. So allow them to rest as much as possible. When they start looking like they're going to roll, walk them on. If they are down and rolling, get them up as soon as you can, but don't go crazy, safety first.